The assault on the Zephyrian command complex began at 0300 hours, during a thunderstorm that masked human movement and disrupted alien sensors. Morrison's team had grown into a multinational strike force of 40 operators, each one a veteran of countless engagements against the invaders. They moved through the ruins of Washington, D.C. like ghosts, their equipment a hybrid of human ingenuity and captured alien technology. Admiral Vexstar stood in his fortified command center, studying casualty reports that defied all military logic. In 6 weeks, his invasion force had been reduced from 100,000 elite warriors to fewer than 30,000 effective combatants. The humans hadn't just resisted. They had systematically dismantled his army through tactics that seemed to violate every principle of warfare he understood. "Admiral," Commander Calvin reported, his voice strained with exhaustion, "we've lost another supply depot. The humans struck with precision weapons of unknown origin, targeting our ammunition stores exclusively. Intelligence suggests they're using our own energy cells as explosive devices." Vexstar's mandibles clicked in frustration. "How are they obtaining our equipment?" "They take it from our dead, Admiral. They've learned to operate our technology better than some of our own troops. They're also manufacturing weapons specifically designed to exploit our weaknesses." The truth was worse than Calvin reported. Human engineers had not only reverse-engineered Zephyrian technology but improved upon it. Dr. Warren's team had developed weapons that fired projectiles containing compressed alien energy cells, creating devastating explosive impacts. They had built shield disruptors that rendered Zephyrian armor useless, and communication jammers that severed alien units from command support. Morrison's team reached the perimeter of the command complex without detection. The facility was a fortress built into the ruins of the Capitol building, protected by energy barriers, automated defense systems, and 300 elite guards. Under normal circumstances, assaulting such a position would require artillery support and massive infantry coordination, but these weren't normal circumstances. And Morrison's team wasn't planning a conventional assault. They were planning something the Zephyrians had never encountered. A surgical strike designed to decapitate enemy leadership while simultaneously broadcasting the attack to resistance cells worldwide. "Overwatch positions confirmed," whispered Maria Santos, the team's communications specialist. "We're live on the global resistance network. Every cell from Tokyo to Cairo is watching this feed." Morrison smiled grimly. The psychological impact of the mission was as important as the tactical objectives. Humanity needed to see that the invaders could be defeated, that their advanced technology wasn't invincible, and that 40 humans with proper training and equipment could strike at the heart of alien power. "Remember the plan?" Morrison sub-vocalized into his throat microphone. "We have 17 minutes before orbital surveillance can track our position. Primary objective is Vexstar. Secondary objectives are the command computers and communication arrays. We go in quiet, we get what we came for, and we disappear before they know what hit them." The team split into 4 groups, each approaching the complex from a different vector. Morrison led the primary assault team through a drainage tunnel that the aliens hadn't detected during their occupation. Months of careful reconnaissance had revealed that Zephyrian engineers relied heavily on automated systems and rarely conducted physical security inspections inside the tunnel. Morrison reflected on how much humanity had changed during the invasion. The scattered, chaotic resistance of the first weeks had evolved into a coordinated military force that operated with precision the aliens couldn't match. Humans had done something unprecedented. In Zephyrian experience, they had learned from defeat and become stronger. The drainage tunnel led directly beneath the command center's energy shield. Dr. Warren's shield disruptors had created a temporary gap that would last exactly 14 minutes. Morrison's team emerged into the facility's lower level and began their ascent toward the command deck. Zephyrian security protocols were designed to repel external attacks, not infiltration by enemies who understood their technology. Morrison's team moved through the facility using captured access codes and carefully studied patrol patterns. They encountered minimal resistance until they reached the command Level. Admiral Vexstar was studying tactical displays when alarms began sounding throughout the complex. Human infiltrators had somehow penetrated his strongest fortress. It should have been impossible, but nothing about this campaign had followed normal patterns. Security teams to command level, Vexstar ordered. Seal all access points. Begin emergency protocols. But the emergency protocols were designed for conventional threats. They couldn't account for enemies who had spent weeks learning Zephyrian procedures, studying their psychology, and preparing countermeasures for every defensive system. Morrison's team struck the command center from 3 directions simultaneously. Explosive charges disabled the automated defense systems. Electromagnetic pulse devices shut down communication arrays. And precision weapons eliminated guards before they could raise alarms. Admiral Vexstar found himself facing a human warrior who moved with deadly efficiency through his command center. This wasn't the primitive savage he had expected to conquer. This was a professional soldier with decades of experience, equipped with weapons that had been specifically designed to kill Zephyrians. "You're Admiral Vexstar?" Morrison stated, his weapon trained on the alien commander. It wasn't a question. Vexstar's hand moved toward his sidearm, but Morrison's rifle adjusted its aim with mechanical precision. "I wouldn't. You're worth more alive than dead, but that can change quickly." The alien admiral stopped moving. "You speak our language. Your troops were very cooperative teachers. We learned a lot from the ones who survived long enough to talk." Morrison gestured toward his communications specialist. "Santos, are we broadcasting?" "Live feed to resistance cells in 47 countries, Chief. The whole world is watching." Morrison looked directly at Admiral Vexstar. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to order your remaining forces to withdraw to orbit. You're going to transmit a message to your high command explaining that Earth is not worth the cost of conquest. And you're going to leave our solar system and never return." Vexstar's mandibles clicked in what humans had learned to recognize as contemptuous laughter. "You think 40 primitives can dictate terms to the Zephyrian Empire? We have dreadnoughts in orbit capable of sterilizing your entire planet." Morrison's smile was cold and confident. "You're right. You could glass the planet from orbit, but that would make you the first Zephyrian admiral in 3,000 years to admit defeat by destroying a planet you couldn't conquer. How do you think your high command would react to that news?" The psychological blow struck home. Zephyrian military culture was built on the concept of inevitable victory. Admitting that a primitive species had forced them to resort to planetary bombardment would be a humiliation that could destroy Vexstar's career and undermine the Empire's reputation for invincibility. "Furthermore," Morrison continued, "we know about your supply situation. 6 weeks of extended combat operations have depleted your reserves. You don't have enough fuel for a return journey to Zephyrian space if you waste it on bombardment operations. You're trapped here until you can establish resource extraction operations, which requires conquering the planet, which you've proven incapable of doing." Santos looked up from her communications console. "Chief, I'm receiving reports from resistance cells worldwide. Coordinated strikes are hitting every remaining alien position simultaneously. They're calling it Operation Thunderstrike." Morrison nodded with satisfaction. The resistance had evolved beyond guerrilla harassment into a synchronized military force capable of global coordination. While he confronted Vexstar, human forces across the planet were demonstrating that Earth's defenders had become an army. Admiral Vexstar studied the tactical displays showing attacks across the globe. His remaining forces were under assault from enemies who fought with increasing sophistication and effectiveness. The humans had done something unprecedented. They had turned an invasion into a learning experience, emerging from each engagement stronger and more capable. "What are your terms?" Vexstar asked quietly. Morrison activated his communication system. "Dr. Warren, transmit the package." Across the command center, Zephyrian computers began receiving data streams containing detailed information about human military capabilities, technological achievements, and strategic doctrine. The transmission included everything from historical warfare analysis to cutting-edge research and weapons development. That information represents 6,000 years of human military evolution. Morrison explained. Every war we've fought, every weapon we've developed, every tactical innovation born from necessity. Study it carefully. Share it with your high command. Let them understand exactly what they're considering conquering. The data transmission revealed something that shattered Zephyrian assumptions about human civilization. These weren't primitives who had recently discovered warfare. They were apex predators who had refined the art of conflict across millennia. Their crude weapons were the result of resource limitations, not int. The Zephyrian High Command had never called an emergency session during an active conquest. In 3 millennia of expansion, no species had ever forced them to reconsider their strategy mid-invasion. Admiral Vexstar stood before the holographic projections of the 5 Supreme Commanders. His confidence shattered by 2 weeks of unprecedented losses. "Explain," commanded Supreme Commander Thaurax, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "How has a primitive species cost us 60% of our ground forces?" Vexstar struggled to find words that wouldn't sound like excuses. "The humans fight unlike any species we've encountered. They refuse conventional engagement. They strike from concealment, target our weaknesses with precision we thought impossible, and coordinate attacks across vast distances without detectable communication networks. You're telling us that primitives with metal projectile weapons are outmaneuvering our elite warriors?" "It's more complex than that, Supreme Commander. These humans have turned warfare into something beyond our understanding. They don't just fight, they hunt. Every engagement reveals new tactics, new weaknesses they've identified in our equipment and formations." On Earth, Master Chief Morrison crouched in the shadows of a collapsed overpass, watching a Zephyrian supply convoy navigate through the ruins of Chicago. 3 weeks into the invasion, the aliens had learned to vary their routes, but they still moved like a traditional military force. They couldn't comprehend an enemy that had spent centuries perfecting irregular warfare. Morrison's expanded team now included operators from 12 different nations. Language barriers had dissolved in the face of shared purpose. A German GSG-9 sniper, a Israeli Sayare Makol explosives expert, a Canadian JTF-2 reconnaissance specialist, and dozens of others worked together with a coordination that amazed even veteran Special Forces personnel. The supply convoy consisted of 6 heavily armored vehicles protected by energy shields and armed escorts. Standard assault tactics would be suicide, but Morrison wasn't planning a standard assault. He was planning something the aliens had never encountered, a multi-vector ambush executed with surgical precision. "Positions confirmed," whispered Lieutenant Anderson, the explosive specialist. "Charges set on the bridge supports. 1 word from you and their escape route disappears." Sergeant Martinez had positioned himself 800 meters away with a modified anti-material rifle. "I have visual on the lead vehicle's power coupling. These things all have the same design flaw, exposed energy feeds on the left rear quarter panel." Morrison smiled grimly. 3 weeks of continuous observation had revealed that Zephyrian technology relied on centralized power distribution. Disable the main coupling and their shields, weapons, and propulsion failed simultaneously. It was elegant engineering that created a critical vulnerability. "Wait for my signal," Morrison whispered. "Remember, they adapt quickly. We hit fast, grab intel, and disappear before reinforcements arrive." The convoy entered the kill zone with typical Zephyrian confidence. Their sensors detected no immediate threats, their weapons were powered and ready, and their formation provided overlapping fields of fire. By every tactical calculation they understood, they were secure. Morrison's team struck with devastating coordination. Martinez's first shot disabled the lead vehicle's power coupling, causing its shields to fail and propulsion to cease. Anderson triggered the bridge charges, sending tons of concrete cascading onto the convoy's rear vehicles. Other team members fired from concealment, targeting specific systems with precision that spoke of weeks of careful study. The aliens responded quickly, but their countermeasures were designed for conventional warfare. They established a defensive perimeter, called for air support, and began systematic suppression fire. But the humans had already achieved their objectives. Morrison's team melted away into the urban landscape, carrying captured alien equipment and intelligence. This pattern repeated across the globe. Human Special Forces units had identified the Zephyrian command structure, communication protocols, and logistical requirements. They struck at fuel depots, ammunition stores, and communication relays with increasing effectiveness. More importantly, they were learning to reverse engineer alien technology. In a secret facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Dr. Elizabeth Warren worked around the clock with a team of engineers and captured alien equipment. 3 weeks of study had revealed the basic principles behind Zephyrian energy weapons and defensive systems. "It's actually quite simple," Dr. Warren explained to General Marcus Stone, the officer coordinating Earth's resistance. "Their technology is far more advanced than ours, but it's also incredibly standardized. Every weapon uses the same power cell design. Every vehicle uses identical shield generators. And every piece of equipment operates on the same frequency spectrum." General Stone examined the disassembled alien rifle. "What does that mean for our forces?" "It means we can build countermeasures. Their shields operate on a specific frequency that our electronics can disrupt. Their weapons have targeting systems we can jam. And their power cells can be overloaded to create quite impressive explosions." Meanwhile, Admiral Vextar faced a reality that challenged everything he understood about warfare. His forces controlled no territory despite technological superiority. Every position they established came under attack. Every patrol suffered casualties. Every supply run required massive escort protection that further stretched his diminishing resources. The humans had done something unprecedented. They had turned the Zephyrians' technological advantages into liabilities. Advanced sensors were useless against enemies who could mask their signatures using local materials. Energy weapons were ineffective against targets that refused direct confrontation. Powered armor was a disadvantage when fighting enemies who understood its limitations better than its designers. Morrison's team had evolved beyond simple guerrilla tactics. They now operated as a hunter-killer unit, specifically targeting alien commanders and technical specialists. Each successful mission provided new intelligence about Zephyrian capabilities and weaknesses. During a raid on an alien command post in the ruins of Los Angeles, Morrison's team captured something invaluable, a Zephyrian tactical computer, containing detailed information about their military doctrine, fleet dispositions, and strategic objectives. Dr. Warren's analysis revealed information that changed everything. The Zephyrians weren't just conquering Earth, they were strip mining it. Their plan involved harvesting the planet's resources and enslaving the population for forced labor in off-world mining operations. But more importantly, the data revealed critical weaknesses in their fleet formations and command structure. "They're not prepared for a prolonged campaign," Dr. Warren explained to the Joint Chiefs. "Their doctrine assumes rapid conquest followed by resource exploitation. Extended resistance drains their supplies and forces them to operate outside their established protocols." General Stone studied the tactical displays. "How long can they sustain current operations?" "Based on their supply consumption rates and current losses, perhaps 2 months before they're forced to commit their orbital assets to ground support. That's when they become vulnerable." Morrison absorbed this information during a rare briefing at the Mountain facility. 2 months to prepare for the decisive phase of the war. 2 months to turn Earth's scattered resistance into a coordinated military force capable of threatening orbital assets. "We need to scale up operations," Morrison told the assembled Special Forces commanders. "Every day we survive makes them weaker. Every loss we inflict forces them to divert resources from conquest to security. We're not just fighting for territory, we're fighting for time." The transformation of human resistance from guerrilla harassment to strategic warfare accelerated rapidly. Captured alien technology provided the foundation for new weapons and defensive systems. Coordination networks expanded from special forces units to include regular military formations and civilian resistance groups. Most importantly, Humanity began to understand the true nature of their enemy. The Zephyrians weren't unstoppable conquerors. They were bullies who had never faced serious resistance. Their tactics were stagnant, their strategy predictable, and their psychology unprepared for an enemy that grew stronger through adversity. Morrison's final mission of this phase took him into the heart of enemy territory. A Zephyrian command complex built in the ruins of Washington, DC intelligence suggested that Admiral Vextar himself was coordinating operations from this facility. Eliminating him would cripple alien command structure and force them to commit resources from orbit. As Morrison's team prepared for the most dangerous mission of the war, he reflected on how much had changed. 3 weeks ago, they were fighting for survival. Now they were fighting for victory. The cosmic overlords were about to learn why humanity had never met a challenge it couldn't eventually overcome. The real war was about to begin. The Zephyrian Empire stretched across 14 star systems, their massive dreadnoughts casting shadows over entire planets. For 3,000 years, they had conquered every species they encountered. Their technology was beyond comprehension. Their warriors bred for combat from birth, and their tactics had never failed them. The galaxy trembled at the mention of their name. Admiral Vextar stood on the command bridge of the flagship Dominion's Edge, watching the blue-green planet below through the massive viewport. Earth, the humans called it. Intelligence reports suggested this species had barely mastered interplanetary travel, still using primitive chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. They would fall within days, like all the others. "Status report," Vextar commanded. His voice carrying the authority of countless victories. Commander Calvin approached, his crimson armor gleaming under the bridge lights. "Our scout ships have completed reconnaissance, Admiral. The humans possess no energy shields, no plasma weaponry, and no faster-than-light combat vessels. Their largest warships are floating metal shells powered by controlled explosions." Vextar's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Controlled explosions? How wonderfully primitive. Begin the standard invasion protocol. Deploy occupation forces to their major population centers. This campaign should be concluded before the next solar cycle." The first wave of Zephyrian dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Each craft carried 50 elite warriors equipped with energy weapons that could disintegrate matter at the molecular level. Their armor provided personal force fields capable of deflecting any kinetic projectile the humans might possess. It was supposed to be a routine conquest. The dropships landed in major cities across the globe: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. The Zephyrian warriors emerged with confidence, expecting terrified primitives to surrender immediately upon witnessing their superior technology. Instead, they found empty streets and an eerie silence that made even veteran soldiers uneasy. In Washington, D.C., Captain Zorthak led his squad through the abandoned government district. Their sensors detected human life signs, but the readings were scattered and moving in patterns that defied explanation. The humans seemed to be everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. "Something feels wrong about this, Captain," muttered Sergeant Victor, his weapons scanning left and right. "Where are they?" Before Zorthak could respond, the first shot rang out. It wasn't the primitive projectile weapon they expected. The sound echoed off buildings with a sharp crack that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Victor collapsed, his force field sparking and failing as an unknown projectile penetrated his armor with impossible precision. "Sniper!" Zorthak shouted, diving for cover behind an abandoned vehicle. But there was no second shot. Only silence. The same scenario played out across the planet. Zephyrian forces found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and couldn't understand. Human resistance fighters struck from shadows, used the terrain to their advantage, and employed tactics that the aliens had never encountered. But these weren't ordinary human soldiers. In the mountains of Afghanistan, Master Chief Petty Officer Jake Morrison watched the alien patrol through his rifle scope. 22 years of service, 15 combat deployments, and countless missions in the world's most dangerous places had prepared him for many things. Fighting extraterrestrial invaders wasn't one of them. But adaptation was what SEALs did best. Morrison had been conducting a classified operation when the invasion began. His team was extracted immediately, but instead of returning to base, they were given new orders: assess enemy capabilities and initiate guerrilla operations. The mission parameters were simple: learn how to kill them, then teach others. The alien patrol moved in perfect formation, their energy weapons sweeping in coordinated arcs. Their armor was impressive, but Morrison had noticed something during 3 days of observation: the joints. Every suit of armor had joints, and joints were weak points. The aliens were also predictable, following the same patrol routes and tactical formations. Regardless of terrain, Morrison's breathing slowed as he acquired his target. The lead alien was exactly where he expected it to be. The modified .50 caliber round left the barrel at over 3,000 feet per second, carrying with it the concentrated fury of a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare against its own kind. The round struck the alien commander just below the helmet, where the neck joint created a small gap in the armor. The force of impact sent the creature spinning before it collapsed in a heap of sparking technology and alien blood. Morrison was already moving to his next position before the body hit the ground. The alien squad erupted in confusion. Their formations scattered as they searched for a threat they couldn't locate. Morrison had vanished into the rocky terrain like a ghost, leaving behind only questions and fear. Similar encounters occurred worldwide as Special Forces units engaged the invaders. Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, British SAS, Russian Spetsnaz, and dozens of other elite military units found ways to exploit weaknesses in alien technology and tactics. They shared intelligence through encrypted communications networks, building a database of enemy vulnerabilities that grew by the hour. The Zephyrians had expected resistance, but not like this. Their previous conquests involved organized militaries that fought in conventional formations. They understood fleet battles, siege warfare, and direct confrontation. They had no experience with asymmetrical warfare, guerrilla tactics, or enemies who refused to fight fair. Admiral Vexstar paced the command deck as casualty reports flooded in. 30% losses in the first week. His forces were being systematically hunted by an enemy that struck without warning and disappeared before retaliation was possible. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were learning, adapting, and sharing knowledge at an unprecedented rate. How is this possible? Vexstar demanded. They're primitives. Their weapons are crude metal projectiles. Commander Calvin hesitated before answering. Admiral, our intelligence may have been incomplete. These humans appear to have extensive experience in warfare. Their tactics are sophisticated, their marksmanship is exceptional, and they seem to understand our weaknesses better than we understand theirs. Vexstar's eyes narrowed. Elaborate. They target our joint systems exclusively. They know exactly where our armor is weakest. They use terrain to negate our technological advantages. And they fight with a coordination that suggests extensive military training and battlefield experience. In the ruins of Detroit, Morrison's team had linked up with other SEAL units and Army Special Forces. They'd been running continuous operations for 6 days, hitting alien patrols and supply convoys with devastating efficiency. The enemy was adapting too, changing routes and formations. But they were still thinking like a conventional military force. They don't understand us, Morrison explained to the Joint Task Force commanders during a brief respite in an abandoned factory. They see our weapons and assume we're primitive. They see our tactics and assume we're disorganized. They have no concept of what humans are capable of when we're fighting for our home. Colonel Sarah Chun, Morrison's commanding officer, nodded grimly. Intelligence suggests they've conquered 14 different species. Every one of them folded within weeks of first contact. They're not prepared for a species that's been fighting wars for thousands of years. Morrison checked his equipment as he prepared for the next mission. Their mistake. Every war we've ever fought, every battle we've ever lost or won, every innovation born from necessity, it all prepared us for this moment. They brought technology to a fight that requires something they've never needed to develop, the human spirit. The war was just beginning. and the cosmic overlords were about to learn why humanity had survived every challenge their own planet had thrown at them. They were about to discover what happened when predators encountered a species that had turned survival into an art form. As Morrison's team prepared to move out for another night operation, he reflected on the words his instructor had spoken during SEAL training years ago. The only easy day was yesterday. The aliens were about to understand exactly what that meant.